In this video, we shall get acquainted with the basic syntax of PHP language.
Let us now write a simple hello world application in PHP and see how it can be run from the command line. PHP statements or the block of one or more than one PHP statements are put inside these two lines, less than question mark PHP. This marks the beginning of the PHP code, and greater than question mark greater than marks the end of the PHP code. So in between these two, I am just writing a single statement, echo hello world. Echo and print, these are the two PHP keywords which are almost used similarly to display the output on whatever the output device that is in use. Since we are going to use this or execute this code from the command line, our command prompt or the console terminal will be our output device, so on which you expect this hello world to be printed. So after writing this number of statements, just save this file as hello.php. So I have already saved this file as hello.php. Now you open the command prompt and go into the directory in which this file has been saved. So this is the folder in which this hello.php is present. So before executing this script from the command line, you have to ensure that the php.exe, the PHP executable, the folder in which this php.exe is provided or present must be in the path of your operating system. So if it is already there, then all you have to do is to execute this hello.php from the command line by saying php hello.php. So what happens? The statements inside this PHP script will be executed. Incidentally, there is only one statement, echo hello world. So I should get the hello world message being printed. So that's how you can execute a PHP script from the command line. Okay. So this demonstration will show you how to execute a hello world application as a web page. So for that purpose, I have written this HTML code. Remember that any HTML code or HTML script can be saved as a PHP file. But if you want to include a certain PHP code or PHP instructions inside the HTML, then you have to use this line as the mark of beginning of the PHP block of statements, less than question mark and PHP. And in order to denote that the PHP script is over, it should be marked by the question mark greater than, inside which you can write as many as number of PHP statements as you want. Here I am just using one echo hello world, and this hello world is surrounded by the heading tag, right? And this page or this HTML script in which a PHP part is included is saved as hello.php on the document root of our PHP web server, PHP enabled web server. It may be XAMPP or it may be WAMP or it may be any web server that you may want to use. So write this script, save it in the folder which is marked or which is configured as the document root of your web server. Okay. Now after having done this, start your web server, call it as a localhost, because the name of the web server on your machine will anyway be called as localhost. If you want or if it is needed, configure your port number. Default port number is 80, but if it is already occupied by any other web server, change it to whatever you want. Particularly 8080 is the alternative port number that is used. Okay, so perform this, save this file, start your web server, and now open the browser and visit this page. So the web server is running. I am just giving the URL as localhost hello.php, I should get the hello world message. Remember that the script also carried a title as PHP test that is appearing here, and hello world echo hello world statement had a h1 tag used, so hello world is being displayed in the heading format. So this is how a hello world application executed as a web page that can be done using the web server that we are going to use. Okay.
In this video, we shall see the web concepts as they are used in a PHP program.
So what is the difference between the client side process and the server side process? That I will try to explain with the help of this example. This is a simple HTML code. I have saved this as webconcepts.php on the document root of my web server. This line is a plain HTML which uses the bold and paragraph tags. Okay, so this is a static text. Now this is the JavaScript code. When this part is executed by the browser, it will call this document.write function and return the value of the date function. What this will give you? It will give you the current date as present in the client's computer. On the browser is running on the computer which is the client, and what is the date as per the client's computer, that will be displayed. And after the execution of this code, the browser will encounter this. This is the embedded PHP code. So as soon as it encounters this PHP part will be executed by the server on the server. So what it will display? It will echo server's date is and the return value of this date function. Now this date will be as per the server's computer, as per the date that is stored inside the server's computer. Okay, so incidentally in this case, both the client script, that is the JavaScript code, and the PHP code are being executed by the same physical computer, but this is the browser which is the client and this is the local host which is the server. Okay, so you may not find the difference between the output of this date and this date, but suppose that this code is placed on a server and it is being accessed by a remote client. So therefore, and that remote client may be in a different time zone altogether. So in that case, this client date may show a different result and this server's date may show a different result. But in here now in our demonstration, both will be the same because both are executed on the local host. Okay, so what is the output of this program, that we will see. So there you go, the server is running and I have given the URL as webconcepts.php, client side and server side script. This is the HTML text that is being displayed. This is the output of that JavaScript that I was talking about, and this is the output of the PHP code. Okay, so remember that this may be different. If in the real server situation the code is hosted on a server and the client is somebody else which may be at different location, which may be having a different time zone, so this date reported and this date reported may be different in a real situation. But since we are using a local host, both are showing the same January 17, January 17. Okay, so that is the way in which client side script can be embedded inside HTML using JavaScript. Server side script is your PHP.
In this video, we shall see how the input output operations are executed in the console mode for a PHP program. So console IO.
So here we perform simple console input output operations using the fscanf and fprintf functions. This program can be run from the command prompt. you giving the php.exe path. Okay, so fscanf is the function which accepts input from the stream. Here the stream is stdin, which is a standard input stream which is defined in PHP, and it is going to accept the data from the standard input device into the variable called as a, and because the data that is input is going to be stored in the form of integer, I am using the format specifier as %d. So if you are familiar with the scanf function in C, you will be able to understand this. So fscanf, stdin is the stream from which the input is read into the variable a using the format specifier %d for integer. Same statement or same syntax is also used for reading the data into b. It is also reading the input from the stdin, that is the standard input stream, into b in the form of integer. This is the simple formula for calculation of area, which is length into breadth. And now you want to redirect the value of c towards the std out. So fprintf function displays the output or writes the data into this stream. This is the standard output stream. So area is equal to %d format specifier is used to display the value of c in integer form. So this is a very simple demonstration of console input output in PHP in console mode. So we'll go to the command prompt and execute this program php area.php from the command line. Okay, so this is the directory in which this area.php is stored, and the execution is simple: php area.php. Provided php.exe is in the path of our system, this area.php will be executed. First statement is fscanf, enter the length, I give some number, enter the breadth, I give some other number, area is equal to 200. So that is how a console input output operations can be done using the standard library functions fscanf and fprintf. Of course, fscanf and fprintf can have, here in this case the streams are predefined streams. We are using stdin and stdout. Instead of that, the streams could be any file stream. So that we will see in our next discussion. But for the time being, this is the console input output operation.
In this video, I will explain to you the use of while loop in a PHP program.
So let us now see the execution of while loop as it is used in PHP. So in this code, I have two while loops in action. This is one and this is another. So in first case, the initial value of a variable that is controlling the loop is I equal to 0, and I want to execute these two statements. What are these two statements? Increment the value of I and print it out, so long as the value of I is less than 10. So what do you expect starting from I is equal to 1? The number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is the expected output of this loop. Okay. In the second example, again I am using the rand function to generate a random number between 1 to 10, and that is the value of x. And the loop is expected to keep on repeating till x is not equal to 5. So depending on the possibility or the probability of what random number is generated at that point of time, the loop may go on for 1, 2, 5, 9, 100 number of repetitions, or it may even terminate in the very first place where probability of the first random number itself being equal to 5 will be there. So the output will be unpredictable, so to say, because it involves a random number, and so long as the random number is not equal to 5, this loop is going to run. This is a straightforward 1 to 10 output. This is of course a random output till the number generated is not equal to 5. Okay, so these two examples now I will show you. I have saved this file as while.php. I'll start the server, open the browser, give the URL of this, right? Okay, so now the server is running. In the browser I am giving localhost while.php. Just press enter. This is the output of the first while loop. It generates numbers from 1 to 10. This is the output of a loop having a random number, and the loop is expected to go on till it encounters a 5. So as soon as the number is 5, the loop is terminated. So that many number of times x was generated, it was not equal to 5. If I again run it, the second loop output may be different. See, only the second occurrence of a random number is equal to 5. So after the 2 iterations, the loop terminated. So that can vary as see the first number itself is 5. So this is how the while loop behaves in a PHP script.
This video explains to you the use of for loop in PHP.
So in this PHP script, I will show you the use of for statement and for loop. And there are 3 different examples. With the help of each, I will show you the different ways in which the for statement is used. But the syntax of for loop is like this. It takes 3 parameters. One is the initialization of the controlling variable. Here x is set to equal to 1. Second statement is the test condition up to which the for loop is running, is expected to run. X is less than 10, and every time how much increment or the controlling variable to be incremented by what? X plus plus is the third argument. So this loop will run from x equal to 1 to x less than 10, incrementing the value of x every time by 1. So I expect number to be printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in as a result of this for loop. But you know that the 3 parameters of this for loop, or 3 clauses of this, not parameters, the clauses of the for loop, they are not mandatory as such. You can ignore even all of them I told you that even if all the arguments are not given, the for loop will become a infinite loop. Here in this case, what I am doing, I am setting the initial value of x is equal to 0. I am giving the test condition, and what is the test condition? I expect this for loop to go on till x not equal to 5, and I have not mentioned any value of the incrementing clause. Okay, and then inside the for loop there is a rand function which generates numbers, any random number from 1 to 10, and I have to print it. So every time when the loop runs, if it doesn't encounter x equal to 5, the loop will run. As soon as x printed value of x is equal to 5, this test condition will be false and the loop will stop. So how many iterations this for loop will do, that you never know. That depends on the random number. In what occurrence, or at which occurrence, or at which instance x will become 5, that is a random choice. So you will expect different output of this second for loop. The for loop is especially popular when you want to traverse the entire array. So array, of course, you will learn in one of the subsequent chapters, but here I am declaring a array ARR as an array. Array is a built-in function to create an array, and there are 5 elements. So if I run a for loop from x equal to 0 to 4, every time incrementing x by 1, I use this control variable x as the index of the array. So array of x, I'll print array of x every time. So array of 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that means 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. These numbers are expected to be printed. Okay. So this is the simple for loop. This is a for loop in which the termination is decided by the random number, and this is the third for loop to traverse the array. Okay. So I have saved this file as forloop.php in the document root of my server. The web server will now start, and then in the local in the browser's address bar, I will give the URL of this localhost forloop.php and see the result. So with the web server already running, in the browser I am giving forloop.php as the URL. There you see the three different outputs. This is the output of the first for loop from 1 to 10. This is the output of the second for loop in which a random number is to be generated, and if the random number encountered is equal to 5, the loop is going to terminate. This is the traversal of the array in which these 5 elements are there. This of course will be a variable output. Every time it may generate different number of values. So if I run it again, there you see the random number was encountered to be equal to 5 just at the second occurrence. That may change. This is the traditional or simple for loop 1 to 10. This is the array traversal. Okay. So that's how the for loop is used in a PHP script.
In this video, we shall come to know about the MySQL API.
Now for MySQL API, in order to display or demonstrate the use of MySQL API, this is the first example in which the procedural interface is used. And using the procedural functions, here I am showing you how you can display records by selecting the records from a table. So in other words, I want to execute the select star from employee query and display the result to see as to how many records are there. So if you try to compare every function in MySQL with MySQL, you will find that only difference probably is the adding I into the name of the function. Instead of MySQL connect, there will be MySQL connect and so on. Before that, let me tell you one more thing, that MySQL API is available in all the PHP installations with PHP 5 as well as PHP 7. So if you have a PHP 7 module installed in your bundle, especially the web server bundle containing Apache, MySQL and PHP, if you have a latest XAMPP server, then this 7 version of PHP will be available, and this code will actually indeed run on the XAMPP with PHP 7 also. So I am going to show you the execution on the XAMPP server itself. So for that, let me start the XAMPP server and show you the home page, and in which PHP 7 is present and MySQL has been enabled. So let me show you that. So this is the home page of XAMPP server, and go on to click this PHP info. The PHP version is 7, and down the line if you go and search for MySQL it will show you the presence of MySQL API. So which means that MySQL API functions will now be executable on this. Okay, so let us go back to that PHP script which shows the procedural functions used from this MySQL API. So starting with MySQL I connect, this function also requires the arguments like localhost, root is the username, there is password, no password has been set, and the name of the table to be connected, or rather name of the database to be connected. So this will create a connection resource. If unable to connect, then there will be some error. You will display the error message properly to tell the user that the connection has not been established. Otherwise, execute the select query, select star from employee by MySQL I query instead of MySQL query was the earlier in the earlier case, right? In the result, how many number of rows have appeared that can be found by the function MySQLi num rows. Okay, and run a loop over it and fetch one row at a time and display the contents of the row. Row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3 will respectively be displaying the values of employee ID, name, address and salary. All these fields will be displayed in one for one record. Such like as many number of records are there, that many times this loop will run. Okay, so just equivalent activity of MySQL API, in which also you ran through the entire result set to display the records. So let us run this program and see. We now know that there are 2 records into it, or I wonder how many records are there. That many records will be displayed. Let us see how many records are there. So there are these 2 records in this employee table. We should be able to get the 2 records when we run our PHP script MySQL I.php. So let us run it. So there you see MySQL I.php has been executed in the browser. Employee ID 1, name Raju, address Nanded. This is our first record, and this is the second record. So the contents of the 2 records in the table have been displayed by the procedural interface functions of MySQL I API. Okay. Next, let us see the use of MySQL I functions which have an object oriented approach towards the database handling activities. So what you have to do, first and foremost, you have to create an object of MySQL I class. So this is the statement CONN is equal to new MySQL I. The constructor takes 3 arguments: name of the server, which is localhost, username is root, password has not been set. So all these credentials are required to set up a MySQL I object. If not properly configured, it will result into an error, display the error message and stop the execution. Otherwise, go on to the next step. Execute this query, create database test DB. Okay, all you have to do is to execute a MySQL I object arrow query function. Query function will take this argument. If this function is properly executed, it will return true, and if it is true, then give a message database created successfully, otherwise give an error message, right? Next step is to select the newly created database by using the select DB function of the MySQL I class, and then you have to run a query which will create a table. Create table employee, the syntax of the create table employee is according to the standard SQL syntax, in which name, address and salary are the fields. Their data type and size is mentioned along with the different constraints. In addition, this employee ID table field is also specified, which will be acting as a primary key. Again, query is executed by the query method or function inside the MySQLi class. If executed properly, the success message will be displayed, otherwise the error message will be displayed. And finally, you will have to execute an insert query. Insert into employee, these are the field names and these are the values. Execute the query. If success, give the success message, otherwise give the failure message. And lastly, close the connection by calling the close method of the MySQLi class. Okay, so this is exactly the same activity we are doing, but now we are using an object oriented approach that is provided by the MySQLi API. So let us run this MySQLi1.php. Before actually executing this script, I will have to ensure that the test DB that was created as a result of the earlier example, that test DB I will have to remove from my MySQL server. Then only I will be able to run this. Otherwise, it will result into an error that the database is already existing and none of the other steps will be executed. So I will first delete that and then run this. Okay. So if I execute this MySQLi1.php, you find that the successful execution of the statements, those messages have come up. Connected successfully, database created successfully, table employee created successfully, and new record created successfully. Actually, I should have given a BR at the end of each so that the error messages would have come one below the other. But anyways, the operation has been done successfully. So let us go back to the PHP MyAdmin and check whether the test DB database, the employee table and the record has been added into it. So this is our admin. Refresh this. Test DB is created, employee is created, and this record Rajiv Nanded 10,000 is created. So the object oriented interface is working perfectly fine in this case. The next example to show the functionality of MySQLi API is to show the contents of a table by running a select query over it. Okay, so doing the same sequence of steps again, create a new MySQLi object. If the connection is properly executed, show the success message, otherwise show the failure message. Then go on to the next step. You want to execute now the select star from employee query. Okay, in order to do that, call the query method of the MySQLi class by its object. So con arrow query, the query is the SQL string that is given. So the result is the return value of this query function is a result set. So result is equal to con arrow query. From this result set, find out how many number of rows are present in that by calling this numRows, number of rows. Remember that this is not a function, but this is a property which is associated with the result set. Similarly, the property of field count will give me how many fields are there. Okay, so use these two variables num result and num fields to design a first row of a table which you are going to create in HTML. Inside that table, the first row will contain the headings. The names of the columns of the table will act as the heading for the entire table. So it will generate a first row. There is another function which is inside this MySQLi API is fetch field. So fetch field, result arrow fetch field name. What will it do? It will fetch the next field in the sequence and arrow name will give me the name. So that means what? first result of this particular function will be emp id, then it will be emp name, emp address and emp salary. All those 4 field names will be placed into the 4 cells of the first row. So it will form the heading. And then using these 2 for loops, nested for loops, one outer loop going over from I is equal to 0 to num result. Num result is the number of rows, how many rows are there, and the inner for loop is going over for j is equal to 0 to num fields, how many fields are there. Okay, so using which every time when you access the row of j, what it will give, the each content of each row, each column corresponding to each row, fetch one row at a time. It will be an associative array called row. Row of j will give me row of 0, row of 1, row of 2, 3 and so on, as many number of fields are there. Those values will be put into the td tag of the row. So likewise, as many number of rows are there, as many number of rows will be added up to the HTML table, and finally close the table. So if you run this script, you should get a tabular representation of all the records in our employee table. Incidentally, in this table so far we have added only one record, so you should be seeing only one record displayed in the table. First row will be the headings and second row will be the one record that we added. Okay, so let us run this and verify our result. So MySQL i2.php, when I execute that, this is of course the connection successful message. Afterwards, a table is created or rendered by our PHP script, of which the first row is the names of the columns in that employee table, and the second row is the actual row in the employee table. So because there is only one table, only one row has occurred. But then as many number of rows will be there, they will be displayed one below the other. No issues with that. So that is a demonstration of both procedural interface as well as the object oriented interface of this MySQL API.
In this video, we will learn a very important feature of object oriented programming, which is called as inheritance.
Okay. This example shows how you can establish inheritance between two PHP classes. In this PHP script, there are two classes that are defined. One is student and the other is engineering student, ENGG. Because this class, the design of this second class is going to be based upon the student class. You establish the association between these two by using the keyword extends. So the syntax is class engineering student extends students, class ENGG extends student. So as an effect, what will happen? The resources of the student class, which will be called as the parent class, they will be made available to the child class or the inherited class. So what are the resources in the parent class? That means the student class. So here I have declared three data members or member variables: name, age and marks, and they have been declared as protected. The access specifier is protected. As a result, what happens? All the protected members will become the protected members of the derived class or the inherited class. Okay. It has only one function, which is incidentally a constructor. Okay. So what happens? Whenever the object is created, the constructor is called automatically. That is the definition of constructor. So when the object is declared, whenever the object is declared, you will pass certain parameters to the constructor. So in PHP there are two array functions. Remember that we have used these two functions earlier. This is function number of arguments, how many arguments that have been sent to this constructor, to this function, and then there is a function get arguments. So this is the number of arguments, and this is an array. Function get arguments is the array in which all the arguments are stored. So if the constructor is going to receive 3 arguments, the value of n will be 3. Okay, and the subscripts of the function get arguments array will be 0, 1, 2. So respectively, what I am going to do, the 0th subscript or the value at the 0th index of this function get argument will be stored in name, value at the index number 1 to age, and value at index number 2 is to be stored to marks. These are the 3 variables. 3 values received by the constructor will be assigned to name, age and marks, or rather the data members of the calling object. Fine. So that is constructor, and then there is a get details function which will just display or print out the values of the data members of the calling object. So this arrow name, this arrow age and this arrow marks will be displayed by the well-known echo function. So that is what is in the parent class. 3 data members all protected, and 2 functions, 1 constructor and 1 get details. That is what is in the parent class student. In the derived class, in addition to the 3 data members that this class will anyway inherit, I want to make available another 4th data member to the object of this class, and that variable is branch. So that means what? Whenever an object of this engg class will be declared, it will have 4 data members, 3 from the parent class, name, age, marks, and 4 its own, 4th its own. So what will happen? When I declare the object of this class, it will require 4 parameters. So for example, in this declaration of the object, S1 is equal to new engineering student, new engg, I am sending 4 arguments: name, age, marks and branch. So these 4 arguments will be received by the constructor of the child class. Function number of arguments will be 4, out of which the 3 arguments, all the arguments will be stored in the array function get arguments. Now it will have value at index number 0, 1, 2 and 3, out of which the values at index number 0, 1, 2, 0, 1 and 2, they will be used to call the constructor of the parent class. So the parent class constructor will take on the values of function get argument 0, 1, 2. So this constructor will be called, and the data members name, age and marks will be initialized with the provided values. Okay, and then the remaining part of the child class constructor is to assign the 4th value in the array to the branch data member that is introduced in the child class itself. Okay, so you are calling a constructor from the constructor, you are calling a parent constructor from the child constructor. Okay, so that is the advantage of establishing the inheritance. Okay, and then there is a get details function also, which will in turn call the parent get details and print out the remaining data member branch. Incidentally, this is also an example of function overriding, because get details function was defined in the parent class, but it was having only this much of functionality. Now you want to extend the functionality of the child class get details. So therefore you are redefining it so that when the get details function is called by the object of the child class, this get details will be called. Incidentally, through or inside, from inside that, you are calling the parent get details class, that is a different issue. But this get details function has been overridden by the engineering class. So this is the simple implementation of our inheritance. Create an object of the child class, give parameters to it. Those parameters will be intercepted by the constructor, of which the first three will be passed on to the constructor of the parent class, and then you call the get details to just display all the data members of the calling object. Okay, so this is a simple demonstration of inheritance. Let us see the execution of this example. So the name of the script is inherit ex.php. This is the result. Name, age and marks, and the branch is CSC. That's how the result is displayed. Okay, so this is the example of inheritance.
In this video, let us get acquainted with the idea of class and object and how it is created or how it is used in PHP language.
Let us now put all these object-oriented programming principles in a practical example. The script that I have shown in front of you is called as bookclass.php, and it is placed on the document server of our web server. The name of the class is books, and in which two data members or member variables are defined as price and title, whereas there are a couple of member functions, of which this is a constructor. Remember that a constructor in PHP is having a name construct itself, which is having a prefix of double underscore. Okay, and the two arguments that the object is going to receive. For example, if this is the construction of the object of the books class, I am saying physics is equal to new books. How many arguments? Two arguments I am passing to the constructor. So the constructor will take two arguments. First argument is given to the title member variable of the class, and the second argument is given to the price. So this arrow title is equal to par1, that means parameter 1, and this price is equal to parameter 2. So this is the behavior of the constructor, right? Then there are some set and get functions which are called setters and getters. So set price will receive one parameter, and the received parameter is stored as the price variable, the value of the price variable of the object. So this price is equal to parameter. Similarly, there is a get price which will return the value of the price parameter, price member variable of the object. Similarly, there is a set title and get title. In addition to that, there is a get details method inside the class, which will just display the value of title and price of the calling object. Remember that this variable, a special variable called as this, stores the reference or the address of the calling object that we are going to use to fetch the value of the title and price of the calling object. So this is the entire class. Okay, now we are going to create three objects. Remember that in order to create a object, you have to use the new operator. So new books, physics is equal to new books. Two parameters, we have decided to send two parameters to assign the data to two member variables of the object. So this is the title, price. New books, maths is equal to new books, chemistry is equal to new books. So these are the three objects that are declared and initialized by the constructor. Just print out the values that have been stored in these two objects, call the get details function. So it will print the title and price associated with the physics object and chemistry object, as well as the maths object also. Okay, now I will call the set price method physics arrow set price. So this set price method will be called, and the value that is going to be passed is 25. So what happens? The 25 becomes the value of this pair parameter, and that will be assigned to this arrow price. Here this will refer to the physics object. So in effect, what is going to happen? Initially the value of the price member variable of the physics object was 10. Now it will be set to 25. Similarly, I am changing the title of the maths object. So I'll call the set title, and then just to verify, the changes are to be displayed by calling the get details. Then what I am doing is, there is a get price method I showed you, which will return the price of the calling object. So I am returning the price parameter of first object, second object and third object, and I am adding it into a variable total, and then I am printing it out. So all the elements of the object oriented programming principles are used here. How to declare the class, how to declare the object, how to press the constructor into action, and how to call the different member functions inside the class. So let us run this script bookclass.php and see what are the different results that they will be generated. Okay, this is the output. 3 objects were declared. For each object the constructor was called into picture, and the values are, the object is initialized. Then we go on to change the price of object named as physics by calling the set price, and then you call the set title. Whatever changes have been done, they have been displayed in these 2 outputs, and then finally you call the get price for each object, and the get price returns the price, which is an integer, and then you perform the addition, which will give you the total cost. So that is the demonstration of the class and object as used in a PHP language.
In this video, another new feature of PHP 7 I'll introduce to you called anonymous class.
So this is the example of an anonymous class in PHP 7. So in order to create an anonymous class, actually the anonymous class is the one which doesn't have a user defined name. So you can directly create an object of a unnamed or anonymous class. So this is the object of that anonymous class, equal to new. New is the operator which will create a new object, class. This new class will create an unnamed sort of class, and in front of which this is 10, I want to pass on the value to its constructor. Okay, so inside the class I have one data member or variable, member variable called as x. So private $x is my instance variable or member variable, in which in the same class this is a constructor. So the value that is passed here will become the value of this arrow x, so that means this x, and then there are 2 functions inside the nameless or anonymous class. One is add, other is subtract. So whatever argument that may have been passed to this add function, that and the value of x will be added and it will be returned. Same thing is with the subtraction. So let us now see what happens. This obj is the object of this class, which has this arrow x being set equal to 10. And if I call now obj arrow add, so this function will be called, because that this function is belonging to this object. and the value that is passed to that function is 20. So what will happen, this 20 will go to this y, this arrow x is anyway 10 because it is coming from the constructor. So 10 plus 20 will be the value of this variable result. Similarly, if I call this add arrow or obj arrow sub or subtract, so this function will be called, this 5 will become the value of y, this arrow x is instance at the time of instance creation, the value of x has been set to 10, so 10 minus 5 will be the value of this result. So that's how an anonymous class, a new feature in PHP 7, that can be constructed and used. So let us run this and see the result. So this is the URL anonymous.php in my browser. Result is addition is equal to 30, subtraction is equal to 5. Addition is, the first result is the call to the inner function add inside the anonymous class, and sub, that is for subtraction.
In this video, we shall see the concept of cookies in a PHP web application.
So here now I will demonstrate the way in which a cookie is set and cookie is retrieved in PHP. Actually, I will show you 3 different codes. One is the HTML form, second is the PHP script which will set the cookie, and the third is the PHP script which will read back the cookies. So starting with the HTML form, the name of the HTML page is cookieform.html. All it has is a simple form in which 2 text elements are there, and the method is post. The form data is sent by using the post method to a PHP script called as setCookie.php. When you press the submit button, the data will be directed towards the setCookie.php. So what is there in the setCookie.php? This is that PHP script. So all we are doing is fetching the form data by using the $_post associative array. Remember that the HTML elements were having the names as name and age. So these are the keys. The values associated are retrieved and stored in the 2 variables name and age. So use those variables to set the cookie. The syntax of set cookie function is set cookie, the name of the cookie and the value. Okay, the name of the cookie and value. Here you are setting the time interval, the URL and the other parameters as explained in the earlier discussion. So those two cookies will be set. It will just give a message cookies are set, and then it will give you an hyperlink. If you click that, this getCookie.php will be opened. That is having a code to read back the cookies. So this is the getCookie.php. What it does, it simply finds the value associated with the name key of the $_cookie associative array, that is a part of the request server variable. So from which the cookie name and cookie age are fetched and they are displayed. So whichever values that you may have given in the earlier form, they will be read back. So these are the 3 different codes. One is the HTML form, other is the set cookie script, third is the get cookie script. I'll show all these 3 activities in front of you by running starting from the cookieform.html. So this cookieform.html contains 2 text elements. Let us enter some data into it and press the submit button. What happens? The form will take the data back to a PHP script called setCookie.php. The 2 cookies will be set, right? Now there is a hyperlink which takes me to the getCookie.php, which reads back the values. So these are the two values. So this is a small but effective example of setting and retrieving the cookies in PHP.
In this video, I'll tell you about the file input output operations and how they are done in PHP language.
Okay, so with the help of this example, I'll now show you how to perform the read write operations on a file object. Actually, I'm going to show you two different PHP scripts, one for writing the data into a file and another for reading it from the file. So first, the write operation. I have to use the function called as fopen, which is a inbuilt or predefined function in PHP. It takes two arguments, the name of the file to be opened and the mode. Here in this case, I am using the W mode because I want to create a new file. The name of the file is newfile.txt. If at all this file opening operation is not successful, I want to quit the program by giving the message error in opening a new file because of any reason. Okay, then the fwrite is a function which writes the data into the file. This file is a variable which refers to the file pointer of the open file. So fwrite function takes two arguments, the pointer to the file that is opened and the data to be written into. I am initializing this str variable with this string. Incidentally, if you remember, this is a here doc syntax of creating a multi-line string. So fwrite function will write this string into the file, the name of the file being newfile.txt. After completion of the writing operation, I would close the file and display a message, file created successfully. So if I execute this file and go back to my document root folder of the server, then I should see a new file.txt created there. Okay, so let us try running and look for that new file.txt if it is created or not. So I am giving this URL file write.php. I should get a message, file created successfully. So let us go into the document root folder and whether that file is created and whether it contains the data that we had written in our script. This is the PHP script for reading back the data in the new file.txt. So fopen function is again used to open the file in the read mode. R is for read mode. Again, this error checking mechanism I am using. If the file is unable to be opened, display an error message and exit. If it is successfully opened, then what I want to do, read one line at a time and display it. So fgetS is another file function which reads one string at a time from the pointer which is pointing towards this file that is opened. So it will get one string from the file and display. Likewise, I want to keep on doing this till I reach the end of file. So feof is a function which detects the end of file. So while not fof file, that means what? Till the time there is data or there are lines in the file, keep on reading and displaying. As soon as the end of file is encountered, this loop will terminate, file will be closed. So if we run this, we should get back the data that was written. This is first line, second line, third line, etc. Read back from it and displayed on the browser. So let us try this also. So I am entering the URL as file read.php and if I enter it, this was the data in it. This is the first line, second line, third line. So this is how you read back the contents of the file using the fopen in R mode. Fopen in W mode will write, fopen in R mode will read back. Okay, so this is the example of reading writing operation in PHP.
In this video, we shall see how error handling activities are performed in a PHP application.
So this program is a demonstration of the die function in PHP. Die function, whenever it is encountered, the program will be terminated at that point only. The rest of the program will not be executed. And the die function optionally takes a string argument, which is the message to be displayed and conveyed to the user the reason of the program being terminated. So for example, here die in the bracket in front of die, I am writing file not found. So if the die function will be executed, it will display the file not found message and then it will terminate. In this program, I am using a function called as file exists. This is a library or built-in function in PHP which tests whether this file name test.txt is present in the current path or not. If it is not present, that means not file exists will be true. If it is true, then the die function will be executed. It will display file not found with a message and the rest of the program will not be executed. If on the other hand, if this file is present, then this not file exists will not be true. So the else part will be executed. The given file will be opened using the fopen function. Message displayed will be opened file successfully. If at all there are any more statements, those will be executed in the sequence. So that's how the die function will be used, depending on whether the given file is present or not. The file will be either opened successfully or the die function will execute and the termination of the program will take place. So let us run this script and test for ourselves. This program is saved in the document root of the server. If at all there is a test.txt file in that folder, it will be opened. Otherwise, file not found message will be displayed by the die function. Okay, so let us see. So I am now entering this die.php URL. The file is not found, obviously, because the test.txt is not present in that htdocs folder. Okay, so let me now change, do the certain changes in the program and give the file name which is some file name which is already present. So if I give that file name, then instead of file not found, I should get a file opened message. Okay, so let me go to that script, change the test.txt to something which is present. Okay, so I have changed it to new file.txt. The file is already present in the document root. So after doing these changes, let us go back to the browser and execute this and see that the message. So I'll just refresh this page and the message will be opened file successfully. That is because the new file.txt is indeed present in the given folder. So that is how the die function can be effectively used to handle the errors.
Instead of the unilateral die function, you can also define a custom error handler.
So let us now see how a custom error handler function can be used in a PHP script. To set a particular user defined function as an error handler, you have to use a function called as setErrorHandler. This is the name of the function, handle error, which will be eventually handling the error if at all it is created or it creeps up into the program. So this error handler function has been defined to accept two arguments. One is the error error number, and error string. Right. So if at all in the rest of the program any error occurs, then this handle error function will be executed, and it will receive two arguments, the error number and the description of the error, called as error string. So if whenever this function is executed, it will print this error number followed by the variable value of the variable error ARRNO and ARR string. Additionally, it will execute or rather echo the message terminating the PHP script, and the program execution we anyway want the program to be terminated there, so you use the die. Okay, so this is the handler function defined, this one, and it has been set or designated to handle the error situation. Now in the rest of the code, what I am trying to do is I am trying to open fopen is the function which opens a file, in the read mode. If it is successful, then the success message will be displayed. If it is not there at all, then obviously PHP is going to throw an error, and we have already said that a particular function is going to handle the errors. So the control of the program will be directly handed over to this function. It will print the error message and stop. And at the top of the script, we have used a function called as error reporting. That error reporting function will decide what type of errors will be reported. So we have seen that there are different error levels. There are warning, there is error, there is notice, etc. So error means all those errors which are of the type error, those will be reported. Whenever that type of error will be generated, the handle error function will be executed, and that will print the error message. So let us run this script. Not present, the name itself suggests that the file is not physically the file is not present. So you expect the error message to be printed, error number, error string, and terminating the script, etc. Okay, so let us see. So custom error.php is the name of the script. I am giving it in the URL. So that is the output of the handler function. Error number. What is the error message? No such file or directory. Terminating PHP script is what we have hard coded as the echo message. Okay, so this is how the custom error handler can be used.
In this video, we shall see the get and post methods, as the value of the method is equal to attribute in our form. What difference does it make?
The method is get. So the data sent to the server side PHP script is sent using the get method. So as a result, what happens? The entire form data is the key and value pairs of the form element and its value. They are concatenated together and they are attached to the PHP script that you are going to call. Here, which PHP script is being called? Get method. So the form data will be sent to the server as get method.php, and in continuation with the name of that, all the key value pairs like name is equal to whatever name you will enter, age is equal to whatever age you will enter, will be attached to the URL, and that URL will be processed by the server. PHP side script will be processed like that. The URL will contain the name of the script, and appended to it is the query string which contains the key and value of each form element that you will enter when you press the submit button. So when you press the submit button, that query string will be received by the PHP script. That will happen second time, because when the get method.php, this is the name of the PHP script that will be opened by the browser. First time this get variable will get $_get submit. First time the submit button is not going to be pressed, so therefore this will not be executed. But when it will be pressed, submit button will be pressed, the same script will be processed by the PHP server. Now the submit button is pressed, so therefore this if statement will be processed, and from the get associative array, the values associated with the get name and get age will be echoed back to the browser. So more or less the same thing that happened with the post method. Only difference is that when the get method is used, the form data is appended to the PHP script that is mentioned in the action equal to attribute. Okay, so we will see that particular URL is how it is created. We will run this example and I will show you the exact query string that is displayed in the address bar of the browser. Okay, so I open this get method.php in my browser. The form is appearing with two text elements, name and age. I now enter some data and press submit button. Now as soon as I press submit button, the query string will be formed. Name is equal to Anil, age is equal to 33, and that will be appended to this get method.php, because it is going to be redirected towards the same PHP script, because it is action is equal to has been set to the PHP self, right? So if I press submit button, there you see the query string is name is equal to Anil and age is equal to 33 and submit is equal to submit query. That was the name of the button. So this is the entire query string that is attached, from which the value associated with get name and get age is fetched by the PHP script from the associative array. So this is the behavior of get method.
After the get method, we will now see how the post method works.
So let us see the use of different HTTP methods. This example is using the post method. In fact, this is the HTML form, okay, in which there are two text elements. Input type is equal to text. The first text element is to enter the name. The name of the text element itself is name, and the second text element name to identify that text element is age. Okay, and then there is a input type is equal to submit. It is a submit button, so that when the user enters the data and presses the submit button, the data is sent to the server side script, and that server side script is this one. I am using the special variable called as PHP self, which means that the data is posted back to the same script in which the form is there. Okay, so when this form is opened in the browser for the first time, the submit button is not pressed, so therefore this condition is not true, and therefore this PHP script will not be executed and the form will be displayed. But when the data is entered and submit button is pressed, that means what? The associative array server side variable called as $post, in which the submit variable is entered, or submit variable is set. So therefore this is true. Then what will happen? From the $post array, this is the called as super global, which stores the form data in the form of an associative array, where the name of the element is the key and the value entered to that element is the value. So in order to fetch the values associated with the keys, I'll say $_post name, which will give me whatever value that was entered inside the text box named as name, and similarly age. So this will be executed when the user clicks the submit button. So that is how the form data is accessed by the PHP script, which is the value of the action attribute of the form. The method is post. Okay, so this is the use of post method. Now I'll run this example and see that the form data that is entered is fetched by the PHP script. Okay. So on the address bar of the browser, after the of course the web server is running now, I enter localhost post method.php. I get a form. I enter some data into this. And some age. If I press submit button, then what is going to happen? The action attribute is redirected towards the same post method.php because of the PHP self variable. This data will be sent as the data in the post $_post associative array, and from which the key and value, using the key, the values are fetched and they are echoed back to the browser. So this is the output. So this is how the form data is sent to the PHP script by using the post method.
The use of post and get method we have seen. There is another way of using or processing the form data on the server side, that is by using the $_request variable. That is another super global that is maintained by the server.
Another way of processing the form data on the server side script is using the request associative array. As you know, the request server variable or request associative array can be used to get the form data or obtain the form data that is sent by the get method as well as the post method. So it really doesn't matter whether method is equal to get or method is equal to post is used. Of course, it will have an effect on the query string that will be generated. But then, as far as the fetching of the data from the form is concerned, all you have to do is use the associative array called as request. So request name will give me whatever the user has entered in the first text element, and request age will give me whatever the user has entered in the age text element. After the submit button is pressed, first when this request method.php is displayed by the browser on the first time, obviously because the button has not been yet pressed, so this condition will fail. This will not be echoed. Instead, the form will be displayed. After entering the data, if you press submit button, because the data is going to be posted to the same page again, because I am using PHP self as the action attribute of the form. Second time around, this condition will be true, and therefore these two lines will be echoed. Welcome the value of the name element in the form, and age element in the form will be displayed, and this will not be displayed second time because it is exiting from the if condition. Okay, so more or less the same thing that happened in the post or get method. The same thing, same data can be fetched using the request variable also, that we shall see now. So for first time I am running this example with the method is equal to get. Okay, so the request method.php is opened in the browser, localhost request method.php. The same form is created. I will now enter some data and submit. Remember that the method is used as get, so therefore the query string will be a concatenation of the key value pairs. right? Now I will change the method to post and reopen the form. You see that the query string doesn't appear in the URL. So I have changed the method is equal to post now, and the same form is opened. And now if I press the submit button, because the data is posted, sent by the post method, the query string will not appear here, but the query string, the data of the query string can be fetched from the request server variable as before, where you see the data can be fetched. So these are the three different ways in which the form data can be processed by the server side PHP script using post method, get method, or request variable, right?
In this video, let us have a look at another new PHP 7 feature called CSPRNG. What is this CSPRNG? Stands for cryptographically secure pseudo random number generator.
So this program uses two new functions that are introduced by PHP 7, and the purpose of these two functions is to generate random numbers which are secure for cryptography. So cryptographically secure pseudo random number generators. These are the two functions. One is random bytes and another is random int. So the random bytes function generates a sequence of bytes randomly up to 5 number of bytes. Okay, and that string of 5 bytes is stored in this variable. If I print it, those bytes will be displayed, but not all of those bytes may have a printable representation. So what you have to do is to convert the sequence of bytes by the binary to hex function, so that a certain legible representation of all those bytes will be displayed. And the second function is random int. This is the minimum value and maximum value in between which a random integer number will be generated, and its value will be stored in this variable that you can print it out. So these are the two functions for generating pseudo random numbers which are secure as far as the cryptography is concerned. So let us run this, and randomization also we'll run it couple of times so that you will see the random changes that appear in the output. So this is csprng.php. This is the sequence of bytes, and this is its hexadecimal representation, and this is of course the number from between 0 to 999. If I rerun it again, the random sequence of bytes and numbers is visible. Okay, so that is how these two functions can be used, right?
In this video, let us see what is one of the new important features that have been added into PHP 7 called as scalar type declarations.
This example shows you how to use the scalar type declarations in a PHP 7 function. Scalar type declaration is a new feature that is added to PHP in its PHP 7 version. So using this feature, you can actually declare the data type of the formal arguments to a particular function. For example, here I have declared a function called as average, which is designed to calculate the average of two arguments that are sent to it by the calling environment. So the first argument will become x, second value will become y, and it will calculate the average and return. but I want to ensure that these two arguments are integer. So therefore, to prefix the two arguments, I have used integer int $x and int $y. So that will ensure that the two variables or two arguments that this x and y receive, they will be integer. So also I also have specified what is the return type of the return value of the function. So that is defined by this int, which is given after the name of the function, give a colon and specify the return type, and then the body of the function will be written. Okay, so these are the scalar type declarations of the arguments, and this is the scalar type declaration of the return value. So the execution is simple. Just call the average function giving the two values. They will be picked up by x and y, and then the value will be returned, the average will be returned. So this is fairly straightforward as it was in case of the PHP 5. So let me just execute this function and verify it. Okay. So I'm just starting the program by giving the URL in the browser, scalar type.php, average is equal to 15. So this is as per expectation. What we shall see is how the PHP program will behave if the data types are not integer. So for example, out of these 10, 20, 120 if I make as a string, then what happens? So here what I have done, I have given the two arguments to this average function, as one is 10 integer, the other is 20, it is not 20. So when this function is executed, how does the scalar type declaration have an effect on the actual execution? Now this scalar type declaration is implemented in two ways. One is called as the coercive mode and the other is called as the strict mode. So the coercion means what? This 20 will be automatically converted into a corresponding integer value by the PHP engine. So therefore, even if the string, this is a string, inverted comma means it is a string, but because it contains a digit characters, 20 will be converted into 20. They will be given to the y variable, and the result will be the return value, which is equal to 15, as was the case earlier. So even if I make it as within inverted commas 20, I'm going to get the same result. Let us see. So even after changing the second argument to string, the same result is displayed. So that is called as the coercive mode of scalar type declaration. In order to enforce the strict adherence to the data types of the arguments in the function and the values that are sent to it, you have to start your PHP script by this statement: declare strict types is equal to 1. So which means that now the PHP interpreter or PHP engine will see to it that the data types of the formal arguments and the data types of the formal arguments are same. If they are not same, then it will raise an exception. Okay, so now that the scalar type is equal to 1 has been declared, and then if I try to send 10 and within inverted commas 20, then the automatic conversion of 20 to y, string 20 to integer y, will not take place, and therefore you expect, when you execute this program, you expect a certain error or exception to generate on your browser. So let us see. So I'm executing the same script. Now you see there is a fatal error, uncaught type error. Argument to pass to the average function must be of the type integer, but you have given string. So it is now enforcing a strict type similarity because of the declare strict types is equal to one statement at the beginning. Okay, so if I again go back to the code and change that inverted comma 202 back to 20, now the program will behave properly. Change it to normal 20 instead of the string 20 and re-execute the script. You should get average is equal to 15. Now this scalar type enforcement, either in the coercive way or in the strict mode, can also be applied to the return value also. So if I now change this formula of calculation of value to something like this. So what happens? The division of this x plus y divided by a certain float value will be a float. That means this value variable will contain a certain float, but you are mentioning that the return value of this function is an integer. And now that the declaration of strict types is enabled, declare strict types is equal to 1, this will not be allowed. Why? Because the function returns a value which is not integer. So therefore when you try to execute this, it will again give a fatal error saying that the integer value or the return value of the function is not integer. Okay, so let us now again run the program. So with the changes in the return value type, if I try to run, again it is giving an uncaught type error. Return value of the integer average function must be integer. It is returning a float and that is not allowed. So that is how the scalar type declaration can be coercively enforced or strictly enforced.
In this video, we shall see another new feature of PHP 7 called as null coalescing operator.
So another new feature of this PHP 7 is this coalescing operator that we will now put it into practical use. What this operator does is it verifies whether a particular variable is set or not. If it is set, actually this double question mark is called as a coalescing operator or coalesce operator. There are two operands, one on the either side of this double question mark. The first operand is the one which you want or the one which you want to verify whether it is being set or not. And if it is not set, or if it is set, then this expression will be returned, otherwise this expression will be returned. If it is set, then the set variable will be returned to user, otherwise this string will be returned to the variable called user. Actually this is a sort of a replacement for the ternary operator that you usually see in most of the programming languages, where a certain expression which will return either true or false. After this expression, this question mark is used, and after the question mark, two operands are given separated by the column. If this logical expression is true, the first operand is returned, otherwise the second operator is returned. Now this ternary operator, specifically if you want to verify whether a certain variable has been set or not, for that you use this coalescing operator. So this is the variable that you want to see whether it is set before calling this script. If set, then that set variable itself will be the value of the variable called user. If not, then this string will be the value of the user. Okay, so if I call this script coalesce.php directly in the browser, there is no question of this script being called by a certain client side HTML script which may be containing a form, etc. So there is no question of this user variable being set. If it is not set, then it will display the not passed as the value of user, and it will be displaying username not passed. So also the output of the ternary operator. But if I create a form and in which a form element named as user is there, and then there is a action parameter or action attribute of that form set to this coalesce.php, then obviously what will happen? This user form element will be set. So $get user will be having a certain value which will be provided by the form. So therefore this will be true. So therefore user will be equal to the name of the user that you may have entered in the form. So you will get the output as username is equal to XYZ, say for example. Okay, so this behavior of coalescing operator now we shall see by running this example. I will open the browser. First I will call this script directly, and then I will call this script through a certain HTML form. Okay. So here this PHP script is opened, and as soon as I execute, username not passed. This is the output of the coalescing operator, and this is the equivalent output of the ternary operator. Okay, now what I will do, I will open a form like this. Okay, and this text box is named as user. So if I type something here, press submit button, this coalesce.php script will be executed. It will have within the get server side variable or server side associative array, so to say, it will have a the value for the get user, and therefore it will retrieve or obtain that XYZ as the value of the user variable in that script, and it will print that. That's it. This is the output of the coalescing operator. This is the output of the ternary operator. So this confirms the behavior of the coalescing operator in PHP.
In this video, we will come to know about the spaceship operator, one of the new features of PHP 7.
So let me explain the use of spaceship operator. This one is the new operator that is introduced in PHP 7. You can think of this spaceship operator as a two-way comparison operator, and the symbol of this operator is less than, greater than, and less than, equal to, and greater than. So normally the comparison operators are returning either true or false, but this operator, the spaceship operator, returns three values. If the two operands on the either side of this operator are equal, then it returns 0. If the first operand is greater than the other, then it returns 1. On the other hand, if the first operand is less than the other, the second one, it returns -1. So the three possible return values are 1, 0, -1. 1 if the first operand is greater, 0 both are equal, and -1 if the second operand is greater. So here I am demonstrating a few examples of the usage of this operator. So first expression compares 5 with 10 by 2. First operand is 5, second operand is 10 by 2. So incidentally, these two operands are going to be the same, so this should return 0. So what should be the output of the first line? 5 spaceship 10 by 2 equal to 0. Second expression is 5 spaceship 10 upon 2.1. So this is going to be something like for sure this will be less than 5. So this will be greater, this will be less, so you expect this to return 1. Okay, because 10 upon 2.1, that means the division will always be less than 5. Third expression is 3.142 spaceship 22 upon 7. So this is a well-known pi mathematical constant. Its value is 3.142 and a few more digits after this 3.142. So which means that this is always going to be less than this. The actual value of 22 upon 7 will be more by this, by a certain 0.000 something. So you expect this to be greater, so that means you expect -1. Similarly, I am using or performing the spaceship of a substring of hello world with hello. So substring hello world 0, 5 will separate hello. So in a way the left operand is going to be hello and the right operand is also hello. So therefore both are equal. So you expect this to be equal to 0. Okay. So using the spaceship operator with numbers, integers, float and strings. These three examples are used in this in this code. So let us run this and verify the result of the spaceship operator in use. So this is the spaceship.php. The result is 5 spaceship 10 by 2 is 0. 5 spaceship 10 by 2.1 is 1, as I told you, because 5 will be greater. 3.142 spaceship 22 upon 7 is -1, and spaceship between hello world and hello is going to be 0 because both are same. Okay, so this is the confirmation of the behavior of this new operator in PHP 7.
In this video, we shall see the principle of polymorphism is executed in PHP.
In this example, I will show you how the interface is used in PHP. Interface is similar to a class, but inside the interface only the functions are mentioned or declared. It doesn't have any body or functionality defined in the interface. The interface needs to be implemented by a certain concrete class, and the implementing class has to override the functions, all the functions that are defined in an interface. That is how the interface works. So in this example, I have declared an interface called as button, and in which I have declared one function which is public function clicked. Now any class which is implementing this button interface has to give a overridden explanation or definition for this clicked function. So here there are two classes. One is my button and other is your button. Both are implementing the interface called as button. So the statement would be class my button implements button. So as soon as this my button class is used to implement the button, the responsibility of the my button class is to give the definition to the method or function inside the interface. So clicked method has been defined. What is the definition or what is the functionality of this clicked function inside my button? It will just print out a message my button clicked. So also there is a your button class which also implements button. So therefore it also has to define the functionality of the clicked function which is in the button interface. So what does it do? It prints out another different message, your button is clicked. Okay. So now in order to use the functionality, create an object of my button class and your button class. B1 is equal to new my button, B2 is equal to new your button. If both the objects are used to call the clicked function, what this will do? The implemented function will be executed. The base interface has a clicked function which will be or which has been implemented by the my button as this function. So b1 dot click, b1 arrow clicked will print my button clicked, and so also B2 arrow clicked should print the your button clicked message. So that's how the interface works in case of the PHP. Another use of interface in PHP is to give a sort of multiple inheritance scenario, because multiple inheritance, deriving or inheriting a class from more than one classes is not allowed. So the way around is to use the interface and implementing them. You can implement as many number of interfaces as you want, but you can extend only one class. So there the interface has a very important role. As far as this program is concerned, this will print B1 clicked should print my button clicked, B2 clicked should print your button clicked. So let us see the output of this program. So in the browser, I am giving the URL as localhost interface.php. I should see the two echo messages. My button clicked. It is the output of the my button class calling the clicked function, and your button clicked output for the your button class calling the clicked function again. So that's how the interface is implemented by the derived classes. Okay. With the help of this example, we shall learn to use an abstract class in a PHP program. What is an abstract class? It is a class which is only used to inherit a class from it. It can be used only as a parent class. In other words, you cannot declare an object of the class which is declared as abstract. Okay, so you have declared a class shape as an abstract class, from which you are having a rectangle class, and also I have a circle class which extends the shape class. And then you can have the objects of the derived classes. You have a R1 is equal to new rectangle, C1 is equal to new circle. So you can have an object of the inherited class, but you cannot have the object of the parent class, which is an abstract class. One more thing, the abstract class may have some normal methods and some abstract methods. The abstract method will not have any body. It will have only a declaration. So likewise, abstract protected function area, there is no body, there is no bracket like this, or in which there are no statements. So it is somewhat similar to what the interface does. Okay, but when the abstract class is used as a parent class for extension, then now the abstract method that has been declared in the abstract class must be implemented in the inherited class. So here the rectangle class is extending the abstract shape. So therefore, because this function does not have any body, this rectangle class has to provide the body to the function called as area. So in addition to this overridden implementation of area function, rectangle class is designed to have two member variables L and B. These two member variables will be initialized by the constructor, and they will be used to calculate the area. On the similar lines, there is a circle class also, which also extends the shape. So therefore, the circle class also has the responsibility to override the abstract function in the abstract class. What it is doing? It is just calculating the pi r square of the radius that is given. Okay, so at the execution end, you have a rectangle class R1 is equal to new rectangle length and breadth. The constructor will initialize the object, call the area function. What happens? The area abstraction or abstracted area is present in the abstract class, but its overridden version is present in the rectangle class. That will be executed. It will calculate the area 10 into 20. That will be the result of area of rectangle. On the similar lines, there is a circle object whose radius is given as 10. The corresponding area function will be called up, and it will calculate the area of circle pi r square. R into r is 100 into 3.14, whatever the value will be displayed, that will be the area of the circle. So this is how the abstract class is used as the base or parent class for the subsequent child classes or derived classes. So let us see the output of this program. So the URL for this script is abstraction.php localhost abstraction.php. You should get area of rectangle and area of circle as per the execution of the overridden area function in both of these two classes. So that is how the abstraction principle of abstraction is executed in a PHP script.